Hi, I'm Ashley Hawkins, and I'm the manga librarian, and today we're going to talk about how I got into all this stuff anyway. So, yeah, let's talk about that. So, um, I've kind of mentioned it throughout various videos and everything, and I wanted to get down to business right away and talk about the things that people needed first, but I thought it would also be good to sort of talk about how I got into being an otaku and into this sort of subculture, because in some ways I think it'll give some context and some background information that might be useful, actually. Um, and also kind of be able to show that there are different avenues into getting into manga and anime than, you know, than you might think. I will say probably the ways that I got into the subculture are going to be different from the ways that students and patrons have gotten into manga and anime. And my interests in the subculture are actually not the most mainstream. I have been into, I have been into this stuff for most of my life. So that's actually a pretty long time. So it's, I've developed my particular tastes, and, I definitely have a different path to things than other people do. But let's go ahead and talk about it. So I guess it all starts with Sailor Moon, which is actually a pretty common gateway for my age group. Sailor Moon aired on television here in the United States in a very edited, very Americanized version. But it was everything I could ever want. I will say that I still unabashedly love Sailor Moon. A couple years ago, even, my husband took me to the Sailor Moon concert, which is basically the only concert I've been to in years because I have epilepsy, so usually I don't go to concerts. But I risked it all to go to the Sailor Moon live concert, and actually it was fairly non-flashy, and it was totally worth it. I only had to keep my eyes closed for certain parts. My husband and I have this thing where, if it's going to be flashy, I cover my eyes, and he will squeeze my arm to let me know when it's safe for me to be alert. So we have a system. But that's how into Sailor Moon I still am. I have Sailor Moon clothing. I still love Sailor Moon. My cat is named Luna after the cat from Sailor Moon. So Sailor Moon was my big entryway drug, but I didn't know it was anime at the time. It was just a TV show that was on. Also, I wasn't the best at catching it either on television, so I loved it, but also at the same time, when I was little, I was really into ballet. So I didn't have the best schedule for actually catching television, because I had a pretty rigorous dance schedule that kept me from really like being attentive to like television schedules. So I basically would catch it whenever I could. And I loved it. And then it just kind of vanished because, that's what just happened back in the day when it stopped airing on TV. That was it. And, that was just it. Orlando at the time didn't have the best access to anime adjacent things. And so, like, I knew I loved this thing, but it was just kind of, it kind of vanished. But then, card captors got picked up. And I got really into card captors. And Card Captor Sakura is still one of my absolute favorite anime. Now I've seen Sailor Moon and Card Captor Sakura in like their original Japanese, and I've read the original manga, and I have figures and all sorts of stuff. Like, there's a cabinet over there with like my deluxe like Card Captor Sakura figures and all these things. And so I was really into magical girl stuff. That was the stuff that really appealed to me when I was like really small. And also it was the stuff that was kind of brought over. I don't have the connection to like Pokemon, which a lot of other fans, like even my immediate friends who I grew up with and wound up being anime nerds, are all Pokemon fans. I really wasn't. My brother was. I wasn't into Pokemon. I was really into video games though, which is actually one of the things that really is how my husband and I connected, because my husband, for those who don't know, is Matt Hawkins, who is a former video game writer, and he has a long history with video games, and he's his own entity. And so for me, I was playing a lot of video games. And I really liked JRPGs. So Final Fantasy was totally my jam. So I loved all that sort of stuff, which I think Final Fantasy was a big influence in like making me very interested in the anime subgenre. And then once I got into middle school, that's when anime started to be a bit more available, because we're talking about 1999-ish, 1999, 2000-ish. And so, there was a little bit more availability. Some things were available at the local Blockbuster. Not much. A little bit. So I was able to, like, rent, like, the Sailor Moon movie and things like that. So slowly things were becoming available. Fox had Escaflowne on, and that's the first time where and also like I had internet access. So I was able to start searching for things and start looking up. Like, I got really into Escaflowne, and I was able to look it up, and I was able to find out more information, and I was able to find very short video clips, and I was just able to slowly make some connections. And I got into Escaflowne and got really into it in 8th grade. Then, of course, it got canceled. And then finally I got to high school. And high school is where I finally made connections with people. And also that's about the time where manga started to really start being produced. And I started to do things like go and hang out in the Walden books in the mall. Um, so high school was actually really great because first off, I made a friend who had access to fan subs. Um, and for like a while, it was a matter of he had VHS tapes that had fan subbed episodes of anime, and he would share them with me, and he was able to give me, first off, Escaflowne, which, excellent, which was really huge for me, and I sat and I watched it all, and I found the manga for Fushigi Yugi in a Walden Books, and I was so automatically in love. I had a huge Watashi Yu fascination all throughout high school, and so I went to my friend and I was like, hey, hook me up. And actually what I did with the Fushigi Yugi tapes, because I loved Fushigi Yugi so much, is I actually set up our double... Here's what you had to do back in the day. I set up our double tape deck. So, you know, his tape was playing and then I was recording his fan sub. So I was making copies so that I would have all of my copies of Fushigi Yugi. And that's actually what I did, was I would rewatch these fan subbed episodes of Fushigi Yugi over and over again. And that was kind of the way I did things for a while until internet access was picking, like, things moved really fast, I remember, in this time period, because, you know, we're talking about the early 2000s, so internet starts getting a little faster and a little faster. And so I learned how to torrent at some point in this span of time, and so I was watching fan subs because that was the only way you could. By the way, that was it. I was sitting. Also, I was really poor. Our family was going through a lot of financial troubles at the time, so you know, I would get dropped off at the mall. And I would go sit in a Walden Books, or I'd go sit in a Borders, or I'd go sit in a Books, not a Books A Million. I don't think we had one until, yeah, it wasn't, we didn't have a Books A Million at that point. A Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Noble was the big one. And I would just sit for hours and read whatever they had. And some of them were actually printed, in the flipped versions. Like my original reading of Fushigi Yugi was in a flipped edition. So it wasn't printed the way that manga is more regularly printed nowadays. It was actually flipped. And I was just sitting and reading and reading and reading and reading and reading. Constantly consuming whatever I could get my hands on. And then, you know, Adult Swim happened. And also I was watching Inuyasha through fan subs, so I got really into Inuyasha. I was excited about it because I had watched Ranma 1/2 through the VHS fan subs. But the thing is, I got exposed to Inuyasha through fan subs first, and then I tried watching it on Adult Swim with the dubbing, and I just couldn't handle it. And also around this time, so the thing is, I was sitting and I was watching all this anime, and I would sit and watch it with my brother, and some of it was like really, really edgy because, you know, I wasn't watching it in any VHSs that had any type of rating or anything like that. It was just whatever my friend was giving me, whatever he got hooked up with, I got hooked up with next. And, then we would pass it along. It was very much like pass along the tapes. Until, and then eventually we went to passing along the CDRs with our digital files on them. And that's about the time Evangelion came into my life. And Evangelion is like one of my favorite anime. But also, if you've ever seen Neon Genesis Evangelion or the film that wraps up Evangelion, watching that with like your younger brother is very uncomfortable, especially end of Evangelion, which is why I'm very cognizant of what it is I watch with students, because I had some very uncomfortable experiences of watching things with my brother. And just sitting there like, oh my God, but I'm going to watch this and he's not going to walk out. But oh my God, there are things that happen in the end of Evangelion that but whatever. But yeah, there were certain series that just were, I was steadily exposed to because they were just classics of the genre, or they were what was really popular at the time. So, Cowboy Bebop was a big one. And then, my brother and I also were having diverging interests, which was also good. So he was getting more into the shonen battle stuff, and I was getting into, I've always been into more of the arty stuff, and more the shoujo stuff. I like older stuff. I was, the Satoshi Kon films started coming out, and then I started getting into like college. And with college came like much increased internet speed, better access to things. Also, I could just go buy anime DVDs. So access was just increasing at this time. And my undergrad years were really like a golden age of being able to watch stuff and read stuff, and actually being able to like buy some things, and also being able to I was also pretty sickly in high school because of my epilepsy. So there were certain things I didn't really get to do much of in high school, but then after high school, I got a job and I had some disposable income, so I was able to do certain things that I hadn't been able to do previously, which included I got active in the Lolita community, which meant that I dressed in gothic Lolita clothing. I honestly don't have much in the way of photographs from that period of time. I made them all disappear. My early college years were very rife with all sorts of personal stuff, and so I made a lot of things vanish from that time period. So I've lost a lot of photos of like cosplay that I did at that time. Yeah, a lot of cosplay, a lot of Lolita, a lot of things that I was doing at that time period. I just you used to be able to just kind of make things disappear. Nowadays you can't do that. Like, I didn't have a Facebook at the time. I was in school to become an educator, so I was actually in in Florida, we were really discouraged from having like social media presences and things. We were discouraged from having a Facebook. So I really kept very low level, just communicated with people on like Live Journal and things like that. And I was just kind of doing this quiet existence of like silently doing my fandom things, doing my student teaching. I was working 2 jobs. I worked as a substitute teacher and I worked at Disney. And so I was just plugging along. It was kind of very freeing because I could, really do all this anime nerd stuff, and I could also, I was also incredibly busy at the same time. And yeah, I really consumed a lot during that time period and really honed my interests and really realized like what it is I liked. And was really able to like zoom in on, okay, what I really like is I really prefer shoujo. I really prefer female-led stories. And I don't need to watch and read everything. And so, like, I didn't bother with keeping up with things like Naruto and One Piece and all these big shonen titles that were big at the time. Bleach, all that. I was like, I don't need this. And I had my video games that I was into, and I just, that was really, I think college was really for me where I honed in. And that really was the time where I, let it go. And then I went into the working world, and actually, I went into teaching, and I went into grad school for my first graduate degree, which was in English literature. And I kind of fell out for a little bit because I was so busy with, your first couple of years of teaching are incredibly intense. And so there were things I read, and it was more just something I would do very sparsely on the side. And I just was keeping my head down, and I was reading so much for grad school because I was an English lit major that, there were certain things that I made sure I was watching or consuming, like when Free came out, I watched Free. But for a while I was very like out of it. I still was going to like conventions and stuff, but I stopped dressing in Lolita. One, because I was in Florida. I really felt very constrained as an educator in Florida in terms of how free I could be in my self-expression. I had a coworker who actually complained about how I wore tights to work because I wore colorful tights. And that was really me keeping things very calm in terms of my personal fashion. Like, I didn't really dress very crazy considering that I had been a Lolita for a while at that point. And I kind of just let I let my pieces go, and I just was like, I did kind of go through a phase where I was like, well, I need to just kind of move away from all of this stuff. And, I played video games to like decompress, but I really did separate for a while. Um, and ultimately, I don't know how happy that made me. Um, I think I think I just felt certain peer pressure to be, because I became things like department head and all these other things. I was feeling a lot of pressure to act a certain way and be a certain way. So I didn't get to let my anime, and I didn't get to let my nerdiness kind of flow as freely as I would have liked. Um, and I mean, I think I let it flow more freely with students, but I felt very constrained. And so when I finally made the choice that I needed to leave Florida for a variety of reasons and move to New York, and I made the decision to go to library school rather than pursue a PhD. Um, that was actually a very liberating thing for me, because I think I'd been putting a lot of pressure on myself to be very serious academic lady. And once I told myself that I didn't need to be that, I mean, I moved up here. And I actually had a year off from teaching where I worked as a PA. And I dyed my hair purple. And I just kind of let myself consume a bunch of stuff that I had missed, and just, you know, get back into everything, and really enjoy, you know, actually enjoying things, and saying, like, you know, you don't have to be this super serious academic lady. And a lot of it came with, you know, finding, you know, reading a lot more manga again, and picking up series that I'd kind of dropped, and watching a lot. And the thing is, it was so much easier because of, by that point, Crunchyroll was active and everything. So, you know, it it's interesting, like, that I had this kind of quiet period of just kind of keeping it on the down low. Like, I wasn't actively doing it, but I definitely was trying to hide the fact that I was as nerdy as I am. And then I just kind of, you know, as a librarian, realized that all this stuff that I knew about was actually really beneficial. And the more I could kind of talk about it and, you know, bank on my experiences and my background knowledge, and realize that I had a lot more background knowledge than I thought I had, it made me realize, like, this, honestly, librarianship is a place where I could really just let myself be in the space and just be happy. That's the main thing. Like, I can just be happy with myself and not feel certain pressures. And in a lot of ways, it's very liberating. And so, yeah, now that's kind of where I am now. Now I'm a total otaku nerd. I met my husband, and we have similar interests, and also that, like, that really liberated me, because once you like meet and are able to like marry someone who has similar interests and encourages them even, and does things like buys you really nice anime figures, then you really are like, oh, I don't have to hide it around anybody. Like, there was always, when I was dating, there was always the nervousness of like, oh, is anybody even going to put up with this? And now I can just do whatever I want. He lets me buy anime soundtracks on vinyl. I can do whatever I want. So, and that has been basically why I'm able to exist in this sort of space. And just unabashedly love the things that I love and not have to worry about performance so much as being a serious professional. I mean, I think it's just a lot of things. I think it had a lot to do with my environment. I think it had a lot to do with my own personal insecurities. I mean, as a disabled person, it's like you have all sorts of like worries that everybody's just going to eventually find you to be inadequate in some way. And I guess I was just always worried that everybody was just going to not trust me somehow. I don't know. It's hard for me to like even go through it, because like now it's like such a, we're talking about like 5 years ago at this point. Like now I'm just a complete and total nerd, and I do what I want. I watch what I want. I'm happy. I sit and I play my video games, and watch my anime and read my books, and it actually helps me in my work and working with teens, and yeah, that is what it is. Nowadays, like I said, I have very specific interests. I've mentioned before that I collect cat manga. I actually really specifically collect some very specific cat-based things. I collect these soft vinyl figures called Kanyatsu, are from Kanyatsu. It's an artist in Japan who makes these soft vinyl kaiju figures of cats, so they're kaiju cats. So I'm interested in that. I got some of those while we were in Japan last time, and every once in a while I sort of splash out on one. So I'm interested in that. I collect things related to, there's a character called Diane from Watchyfield, and it's a children's book character, and it's a cat that has a very specific look. I'm actually really into cat illustrators in Japan, not even just specifically manga. I follow several of them, and I really follow them. Some of them I think I'm the only American that follows them. There's actually a word for this. It's called abyokai. And it's somebody who's crazy for cats. But yeah, I love finding cat art and things like that from Japan. There's just a certain charm to the illustrations that come out of Japan. And I love collecting these little things. And also, like, the inaccessibility helps keep me under control to a certain extent. Because when I was in Japan, I bought whatever I could. But from here, a lot of it you can't really buy from here unless you buy it through a proxy service. And I try to keep things under control. But also, yeah, I'm into cat manga. There's even one that I love so much that I translate it as it comes out so I can read it. I'm not the best at Japanese, to be honest. I struggle with it, which I think is good for me to have something that I linguistically struggle with. And so it's called A Life with a Gamer and Cats, and it's about a young woman who takes on, at first it's one cat, but she now has two, in order to train it up to be the best cat possible. And there's a lot of video game references, and it's super, super cute and so well done, and the art is fantastic. And I keep sending tweets to every single manga publisher here in the States that I really, really want this manga, and please localize it. It's been picked up in French, and I'm probably gonna buy it in French because I'm actually much better at reading French than I am Japanese. Because I just love it so much. And I'd like to have it in physical volume. She releases it digitally, and so I read it on Sunday Webry. So I collect those. I'm really into 80s shoujo manga. I love super flowery looks. I'm really into Moto Hagio. I'm getting the new version of Lil Leo that's coming out this month, which is like the perfect cross section of my two interests because it's a Moto Hagio manga about a cat. I'm also really into mecha right now. I've gotten really into Gundam, which I was not into when I was younger, and now I'm like super into it to the point where I'm reading the novelization by Tomino. It's right here. Super into that right now. I'm always into Evangelion. I'm Evangelion trash. Yeah, I have certain very specific interests. I don't really read battle shonen manga, like I've said multiple times. I'm aware of what's going on in it. I'm aware of trends. I don't have a problem with it. It's just not my thing. I just, I just read what I want to read. But I do keep an eye on what's hot and what's new. Although I am reading Chainsaw Man. And that's really good. So there is stuff that I read that's in Shonen Jump. And with video games, recently I've gotten really into visual novels. It was kind of offset by I played 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim, which is now my favorite video game of all time. And, now I'm playing all these visual novels on my PC. And that's been super fun. So and I'm a little bit back into wearing some Lolita Not a lot. I'm not going to go full coordinate again, but I have some pieces. Once again, I actually bought a Lolita dress recently, and I'm excited to wear it, and it's actually a dress that has a shoujo manga print, with like manga pieces from the 80s. So, you know, I have my own sort of niche, and that, I think, is something to keep in mind as librarians, is that it can be easy to kind of lump all otaku into one sort of grouping. But the thing is, everybody has their own tastes and their own things, and it's important to have a wide variety, because if you only get the battle shonen manga that is the most popular, you are only going to be pleasing one particular type of otaku and one particular type of patron. Some of us are not into that. Some of us want the artsy, cool stuff, and there's a pretty big contingent that wants that. A lot of people my age are now like, we want classics. We want things that we didn't have access to when we were younger. And we want official translations. We want them to be printed nicely. We want them to be given some respect, because we also want to see like respect given to the stuff that we really liked. And, you know, that's why we're all jumping all over Blu-ray releases of, like I pre-ordered my Blu-ray DVD of Oscar, the Rose of Versailles. You know, if you're in a public library, I'd especially say really look at the classic stuff, and, you know, develop that. I think we're definitely, as a group, looking to consume a wide variety of stuff. And with so much being legitimately published right now, having access at a library means a lot, because it can be expensive. And, you know, we just want access. And Walden Books isn't there anymore. Neither is Borders. So, I have talked for a long time. That, like I said, is kind of my manga and anime journey, I guess. Is that even the term for it? And I will see you in the next video.